I made myself a bowl of bibimbap, rice, egg, veggies with a dollop of gochujang, the Korean fermented pepper paste. A short while later, I was vomiting and sweating profusely. I had been free of severe reactions like this for over a year. Everything I ate that day was homemade and things I had eaten safely countless times. So, what changed? The gochujang. It was unpasteurized, made the traditional way, which might usually be a good thing, but that also means the fermentation cultures were still alive. And that's when it clicked. It was the mold. I knew I was allergic to mold and had tested positive to some species, but had not thought much about it, especially in context to foods. Traditionally, fermented soy paste can include many varieties of molds, but the main one is Aspergillus Oryzae, or Koji. Yep, one that I had tested positive to. Most commercial versions are pasteurized, which may have been why this was the first clear reaction I had to a fermented product. When you realize this might be your problem, it can get very confusing. You probably ran into two completely opposite extremes of advice. First, your allergist tells you mold is an inhalant thing and no food restrictions are needed. Then you go looking online and you find lists so long it seems you need to avoid everything from bread, cheese, mushrooms, fermented anything, even some fruit. As blanket statements, both of these are wrong. And figuring it out took me down a pretty deep rabbit hole, one that also applies to yeast, which is a fungus too. So stick around. You probably have a lot more food options than you thought. So, question 1. Can a mold allergy actually cause food reactions? Short answer, yes. After that gochujang incident, I had several other reactions that made it clear I react to mold and yeast in food. There are similar case reports too, but not as many as you'd think, and apparently, overall, it's considered uncommon, and that's why your allergist may very reasonably have told you not to worry about food. If there was never any reason for you to suspect mold in food, they are right. You don't need to worry about it even if you react to mold in the air. But if you do react to mold in food, you're not crazy. That is possible too. Then, question 2. Do you really have to avoid everything? This is where I think the internet oversells caution, trying to cover every possibility. But for you specifically, there's a good chance you do not have to avoid nearly as much. After observing my own experience and thinking about why there's such a wide range of foods reported to be implicated in mold allergies, I realized there are a few different factors in play. First, there are many different types of mold, and each mold have their favorite foods and environments. Second, depending on the specific allergen and whether it is altered by heat, some people tolerate cooked forms. Third, certain molds share proteins with unrelated foods. A known example is Alternaria cross-reacting with spinach and mushrooms. Put these together, and no wonder the avoid list can look so different from person to person. The big one for real life is heat. In our experience, cooked or pasteurized foods didn't cause reactions, only raw, live cultures did. So, commercial vinegar, pickles, cooked mushrooms, all fine. Unpasteurized fermented products were a problem. So, if your allergen is altered by heat, you may not need to avoid nearly as much as those long avoid lists suggest. This, of course, isn't a suggestion to test recklessly, but rather to think about your own experience before blanket avoiding everything. Did you ever have reason to suspect you have a problem with commercial soy sauce, for example? If not, you most likely don't have to avoid it, even if you have a mold allergy. The real accurate data for you would be from you. What about yeast? Yeast gets the avoid everything treatment even more than mold, but the same logic applies. In case of yeast, there are even reports of people reacting only to certain strains of yeast, even within the same species. So they might only react to a specific type of beer and be okay with other beer and alcoholic beverages. At least from case reports I've seen, it seems pretty common for people to tolerate baked yeast, even if they react to other yeasts, like in sauces and such. There's also at least one report of time dependence as well, of reacting only to freshly baked items within the first hour. This type of thing may explain why the mystery of fresh yeast bread less than a day old is listed as a common migraine trigger. I started looking all of this up because 2 in my household react dramatically to live yeast with instant severe migraines and gastrointestinal problems, but we are both okay with commercial yeast breads. Some unexpected sources of live wild yeast that I learned the hard way include grapes, mostly in its skin, even when they look perfectly fresh. Yet another factor, how much mold is in your environment may affect how severely or sensitively you react to yeast or mold in food. A patient with allergies to mold and yeast had multiple anaphylactic reactions after having beer, red wine, sauces, and pasta sauces, which can all contain yeast, but only in autumn, when mold count in the air was highest. This same patient, again, could freely eat baked goods. So mold allergy can absolutely be a food issue, not just an inhalant one. But that doesn't mean total avoidance is the answer. Mold and yeast can't be avoided completely. It's about your tolerance threshold and whether you tolerate heated forms or not. And this can be worse when mold counts are higher. Oh, and if you haven't already, check your vitamin D levels. It can affect your immune function. For what it's worth, my sensitivity to molds and yeast seems to have gone down a lot after this was corrected, to the point that I can eat grapes and berries again, and even a bit of kimchi. Every little bit you can add back to your diet is a joy. And I hope this information lets you do that too. Let me know in the comments your experience and if there was anything surprising to you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next.